It is a beautiful good evening. Welcome to the news summary at 22 hours. We look at the headlines. Schools to reopen between 14th and 28th September. A South African entrepreneur has set up a women-only taxi company to protect women from violence in public transport and other taxi hailing companies. Talks over a trade deal with the EU are hanging in the balance amid a standoff over the UK's plans to override part of the Brexit withdrawal agreement. With the news in detail, my name is Luizia Nalupumbwe. President Edgar Lungu says schools will reopen between 14th and 28th September. Mr. Lungu says all primary, secondary schools, colleges and universities will open under the new normal, which require following laid-down health regulations. Learning institutions closed last March following the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. He also says the decision to reopen is as a result of concerns expressed by not only parents but organizations. Mr. Lungu made the announcement during the official opening of the 5th session of the 12th National Assembly in Lusaka today. President Edgar Lungu said the ministries of General Education, Higher Education and Health should put in place modalities that will ensure schools remain safe for all pupils. The president further stated that teachers will also be expected to ensure pupils catch up on the lost academic lessons.
So much depends on the economy. Our mindset should therefore be attuned to building a Zambia that is resilient to shocks, a Zambia that is open to new ideas and opportunities, a Zambia that is looking forward, that's looking inwards for local solutions. Mr. Speaker, our country needs the dedication of all of us to overcome the setbacks we have encountered. All citizens to continue buying and consuming locally produced goods. This will create and retain jobs within our economy. When we strengthen our local manufacturing sector and encourage buying Zambian products, we save the much needed foreign currency that is otherwise used to import foreign products.
And President Edgar Lungu has announced the partial reopening of bars, taverns and nightclubs. He said the bars, taverns will operate from Friday to Sunday between 18 hours and 23 hours. He said the owners of bars, taverns and nightclubs should ensure anyone visiting their places adhere to the COVID-19 regulations.
We need the dedication of all those in our healthcare facilities. We need the dedication of all our farmers, our factory and our shop workers, those in construction, mining, finance and the larger service industry. We need the dedication of teachers to keep our schools running and safe. The dedication of our market store owners as well as customers to keep our markets safe, clean and conducive for business. We all need to work hard in order to keep the wheels of our economy turning. Now is the time to give our very best for Mother Zambia. Mr. Speaker, dedication alone may not be enough. We also need resilience. We need to build resilience in all our systems, resilience in all our businesses, resilience in all sectors of our economy, and indeed, the resilience of our people.
The Zambia National Union of Teachers, ZANUT, is elated by the reopening of schools. Joe Kasaka, the Director for Public Affairs and International, says the presidential directive has come at the right time because pupils need to learn in third term for good progression next year. Mr. Kasaka was speaking to Loyola News by a telephone interview.
Happy that he has done it. And our wish is that all the children that left our schools should come back in one piece. And I think it has been everyone's cry that schools should be reopened, because we have seen that The children that remained in school under this COVID situation, those that remained in school, none of the children, so to say, have died out of COVID. So it means school environment is safe, therefore it can open, and we allow other children also to learn. Because if schools were not to be open, it's better children learn them 3, though they skip them 2, but they can progress to a higher grade next year. That way it's better.
With the continued rise in the number of COVID-19 cases, there has been a call to maintain high levels of hygiene in communities. However, this has been a challenge for some Lusaka residents due to the erratic water supply. The water utility, Lusaka Water and Sewerage Company, has stated that it is currently undergoing maintenance works to allow improved water supply in the affected areas. We have details in the following report.
Water is life. It is a natural resource that we cannot live without. Lusaka City has for a while now been experiencing water shortages, and many densely populated areas such as Mutendere, Kaunda Square and Matero have been faced with this challenge. With the rise in cases of COVID-19, there has been a call to ensure high standards of hygiene. But with the lack of adequate water supply, this has proven difficult for many Lusaka residents.
Every day one kwacha container shit zakwanisa.
Manzi kuno yakaenda yamatinga almost like olo 1 week.
The Lusaka Water and Sewerage Company has been experiencing challenges in water supply.
We have a high demand for water in the city, and then what we are producing is not adequate to meet that demand. So in that situation, what we have done is to ensure that we start rationing supply. So what that means is that customers will experience reduced hours of supply. For example, if customers were having 24 hours supply of water, they may have 12 hours of water, or they may have water which is supplied to them periodically.
And the regulatory body, the National Water Supply and Sanitation Council, NWASCO, has continued to encourage consumers to conserve water.
First of all, I'll begin at household level. We do not leave our taps running, because once you leave your taps running, you know that's wastage of water. So we start from that point.
It is hoped that the water situation in Lusaka will return to normal soon. Mogasibuku, Loyola News.
The era of digital migration has brought about an increase in the number of media institutions in the country. This proliferation of media houses has also placed the issue of professionalism and ethics under the spotlight. Questions abound on unverified information and social media chatter that is sometimes disseminated as news to the public. Idem Mjokoto, media trainer and veteran journalist, says practitioners must not forget their basics and avoid dependence on social media. Mr. Mjokoto was speaking to Loyola News today.
I think it's very simple. Go back to the basics. Identify what public interest is. This is a nation of 17 million, and the 17 million people, their concerns, their needs, their aspirations, the things that affect all of us, regardless of political affiliation, regardless of ethnicity, those should be the things that matter. I'll give you a practical example when I say there is no news. When I talk to editors and journalists, they'll tell me that no, politics is what sells. But they can't justify it with the figures. They can't. You see? Now, I would tell you that if politics were that important, surely there would be a ministry of politics, right? But is there a ministry of politics? There isn't. Instead, there are ministries that are based on sectors. And those sectors that attract funding from the National Treasury are based on matters of public interest. Education. It all has to do with the fact that mainstream media has moved away from the basics and the fundamentals. And everybody is chasing what they think is a soap opera as opposed to the news. So you play political adversaries against each other, you play interest groups against each other, and the fireworks that emerges is what you cover as news. That is very, very, very dangerous. And for me, that creates an opportunity for things to be made up, you know. So if you ask me what I think, I'll tell you that actually fake news is the least of our worries as media consumers. No news is the problem. The fact that the large bulk of what is being put out there as news on a daily basis doesn't even meet the criteria of news. But that has become the norm.
Meanwhile, in a separate interview, founder of Free Press Initiative, John Chirwa, has urged media institutions to ensure they carry properly sourced news stories in order to uphold integrity of the journalism profession.
Press freedom isn't about peddling lies, like I said earlier. It's about truth-telling and also saying things as they are. If it is true that this is green and I'm being told that it is black when I know that it is green, then I'm being told, my freedom to express myself is being restricted. Yes, so yes, we have to be cautious somehow when it comes to exercising our freedoms also. We have to know that there are also limitations, much as we want that, but what we should always bear in mind is that we have to do that with the utmost care and also making sure that we are telling the truth. Where there's truth, I don't see any problem with that, and I don't think anybody would challenge you and tell you to keep quiet about it.
Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, MMD, says the media in Zambia has a huge role to play in ensuring that democracy thrives. In a congratulatory message to Loyola television, Nevers Mumba, the New Hope MMD leader, says the media is key in disseminating messages of democracy for it to work. Dr. Mumba says as the country heads towards elections, the media must give all politicians a platform to express their views. He was speaking to Loyola News in an interview today.
Our dream, those of us that are in politics, is to find media houses that can make democracy work. The only way that democracy can work is to report on what government is saying, but also to equally report on what the opposition is saying. That's how society operates. The moment you only emphasize one interest, you bring what we call crippledness to a society. It's like chopping off one leg and the country is hopping on one. So I hope that even Loyola, as you start, if you give me 5 minutes, give the other gentleman 5 minutes. You may not agree with what we're saying, but there are other Zambians that do. And they deserve to hear the other point of view. And therefore we encourage all the media outlets to equitably cover all of us without fear or favor, so that the Zambian people have the opportunity to get the cross-section of ideas and views so that they can make informed decisions.
In international news, a South African entrepreneur has set up a women-only taxi company to protect women from violence in public transport and other taxi-hailing companies. CPM Kefa, 18, has told the BBC's Newsday program that taxis had become a dangerous place for women, hence her quest to ensure safe travels. She said 35% of gender-based violence comes from women being killed in public transport and e-hailing services. Ms. Mkefa said the taxi-hailing app was still being developed, but an SMS service was in use. She said not all people are open-minded and not all people are concerned about what is happening in South Africa. The State Assembly in Kaduna in northwestern Nigeria has approved full surgical castration as punishment for those convicted of rape. State Commissioner for Women's Affairs and Social Development Hassat Baba described the approval by the State Assembly as a welcome development and said that it will serve as deterrent for rapists. State Governor Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai will now need to sign the bill for it to become a law in the state. In June, Nigerian governors declared a state of emergency over rape and violence against women and children in the country. In sports news, the COVID-19 pandemic has seen many sports disciplines come to a halt. One of the sporting activities that has been affected is rugby. Nobo Chisenga, the Zambia Rugby Union Director, has bemoaned the failure for the league to take off. Chisenga is however hopeful that the league could resume in March next year. He was speaking to Loyola News in Lusaka.
Actually, we've all been affected. Yeah, technically this was exhibited even by Rugby Africa, which is our African governing body, where we are affiliated to, and many other African countries. So they had to cancel all the international tournaments, engagements for 2020 because of the survey they did as well independently. They looked at all different countries and the sanctions that have been imposed. So for them it was not possible to continue the international engagements. So technically we've been affected. As Zambia, we participate in many international games. We also host the famous Zambia International Sevens, which is the biggest revenue for ZRU. Yeah, so technically, financially, we've been affected. Our players are not able to compete at any stage or our age grades. Yeah. Then as ZRU, we also looked at the time frame. We thought it was not possible to continue because our league, 15th league, runs on 15 weeks maximum. So from the time our league started in March, it could have been ended in July. So we looked at July, the time that the league could have ended. It was not possible to resume.
Rugby union, widely known simply as rugby, is a full-contact team sport that originated in England in the first half of the 19th century. One of the two codes of rugby, football, is based on running with the ball in hand. South Africa are the current champions, having defeated England in the final of the 2019 tournament in Japan. On that sporting item, we come to the end of the news summary at 22 hours. But before we go, here is a recap of the headlines. Schools to reopen between 14th and 28th September. Learning institutions closed last March following the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, but pupils in examination classes reopened on June 1st. And bars, taverns and nightclubs will operate from Friday to Sunday between 18 hours and 23 hours. A South African entrepreneur has set up a women-only taxi company to protect women from violence in public transport and other taxi-hailing companies. As CPM Kefa 18 has told BBC's Newsday program that taxis had become a dangerous place for women, hence her quest to ensure safe travels. She said 35% of gender-based violence comes from women being killed in public transport and e-hailing services. Talks over a trade deal with the EU are hanging in the balance amid a standoff over the UK's plans to override part of the Brexit withdrawal agreement. The EU has warned the UK it could face legal action if it does not ditch controversial elements of the internal market bill by the end of the month. Concerned Conservative MPs have launched a bid to amend the new law, but ministers say they will not go away. Thank you so much for watching. On behalf of the entire production and news crew, my name is Luizia Nalupumbwe. Good night.